Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of This Too Shall Pass podcast, a podcast created from the women founded group Affirming Always. My name is Kay, and my mom and I are your hosts, and we also have a special guest today, admin of Affirming Always, Amanda Pompa. It's also her birthday, so happy birthday, Amanda.
Oh, you stole my thunder. I was going to say that. I was going to give her a shout out. So, Amanda, I'm so happy that you're joining us.
You can still say happy birthday.
I'm going to. So, Amanda, I'm so glad that you're joining us for this episode. And happy birthday, and thank you for taking time out of your birthday night to hang with us for just a little bit to talk about our topic for tonight.
Yes, thank you both for the birthday wishes. I am so excited to be a part of This Too Shall Pass. In addition to the ever-growing, wonderful Affirming Always on Facebook. I just love that group. I love the first 2 podcasts you ladies put out there, and I'm just super excited to be here.
Thank you so much. This is going to be a special episode. Well, for me, but I think for you both as well. Tonight we're going to be talking about, you guys mostly know from previous podcasts or from Affirming Always that I'm the mom to a significantly special needs son. But we're going to be coming from a couple of different perspectives. So me being the parent of a special needs son, and Amanda and Kaylin both being siblings of a special needs sibling, and kind of how that impacts us all differently, and just kind of sharing our stories about living with somebody or growing up with somebody that has special needs.
Well, I feel nervously excited about being on this podcast, and I'm happy to share my story with you ladies and all of your viewers and your audience. I think that when it comes to the community of those living with disabilities, the care and the feelings involved with the family and the experiences that we go through aren't usually spoken about too often, and it's a real part of the journey that really deserves recognition and discussion. So I'm super happy that this is happening.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
More. Why are we the same person? We both just said totally couldn't agree more at the same time. But I know growing up and now as an adult, Justin, my brother's illnesses have affected how I view, a lot of my relationships, specifically my relationships to my other siblings, how I treat other people in everyday life that have disabilities, and my perception of having kids of my own. I think it would be really good if we all shared our perspectives and relationships with our loved ones who struggle with their health, because as much as it is their battle, it's their family's battle too, and those that love them's battle too, so I think it's super important to not only bring understanding and awareness to the people that are affected personally by the disabilities, but also the people in their lives that are caretaking them and doing everything in their power to try to help them through that. Mom, do you want to talk a little bit more about Justin and your life as kind of a mother, and then Amanda and I can go into our sibling perspective?
I do, and I feel like it's hard because I know we got to keep this down to a certain time frame. I could go on for hours because Justin's actually going to be 16 this August, which is absolutely incredible. So we call it our journey. In my house, it's always been Justin's journey, and it's the journey that we're on. So you guys all know, a lot of you know, I'm the mom to 4 kids. I've got Kaylin, I've got Justin, and then I've got my littles, not so little anymore, Jake turning 13 on Tuesday, and Carly, who is 9. But I was a single mom to Kaylin for quite some time, which I think we talked about in the last episode. And when I got remarried, when Kaylin was 7 years old, my husband and I obviously wanted to extend our family. And the reality of it is, right, whoever says like, oh, I hope I have a special needs kid. I think when you're planning for a family, you always hope, you just want a healthy child, right? Do you want a boy? Do you want a girl? I just want a healthy kid. So I had a normal pregnancy with Justin. Everything was on target. I actually had him on my due date. I had Kaylin and Justin on my due date. Like, when does that happen, right? Yes.
You made the joke that he was just in time.
He was just in time. Yeah. So we had Justin, and I remember taking him to his 4-month appointment, his 4-month wellness check. And at that point, I had some concerns, just kind of with like tracking and smiling, and wasn't really doing the things that I thought a baby at 4 months should be doing. And I remember I took him to the doctor, and the doctor literally said to me, like, kids develop at different stages, give it some time. And I was pushing at that point for like a birth to 3 referral. Working with kids growing up, having education in child development, I kind of knew, I'm not sure that, something might be a little bit off here. And ironically enough, that night, I think it was about December 22nd, right? The house is all decorated. I got my Kaylin, I got my baby. We're excited to, go see the lights at Forest Park, which for those of you that don't know, it's in Massachusetts, and it's just like this incredible drive-through light display. It's like a half an hour you drive through, listen to Christmas music. So we were doing that. Again, he was born in August. This was December, so that he's about 4 months old. And I can remember the ride home in the car. And it's not funny, but kind of in hindsight, you have a sibling in the back being Kaylin, who's like, Mom, Justin's looking at me funny. And I'm thinking to myself, the kid's 4 months old, Kaylin, like, don't look at him, right? She's like, Mom, he just doesn't look right. I'm like, so stop looking at him. Well, needless to say, I mean, we get home, we pull in the driveway. Justin was blue, literally the color blue. He was seizing. My husband immediately took him to Rockville Hospital, which is the hospital right by us. And, at that point, not knowing what's going on, I get a phone call from my husband saying, you need to get down here. Like, you need to get down here now. And I will never forget, I still get chills walking into that ER room with this little tiny baby in a hospital gurney, with the nurses and the doctors standing over him crying. They had to intubate him. He was seizing. They ended up calling Lifestar. There was a snowstorm that night. So the ground team took him to CCMC, where he spent a couple days. They got his seizures, controlled, and he got stabilized. He got put on some meds. For those of you who have experience with seizures, phenobarbital was the first med that they put him on. And at that point in time, it was just kind of up in the air. They really couldn't tell me if this was a one-time thing. Was it because he got his immunizations that day, which I thought he got his 4-month immunizations? Could that be related? And we really didn't know. And, kind of moving along, it might have been a couple months later, we noticed he had another seizure. So we're back at the hospital. And that really started Justin's journey at that point in time, with seeking out medical professionals, doing all the different testing, the metabolic testing, the genetic testing, just really trying to figure out what is going on. And nobody knew. Nobody could really give a diagnosis to what he had.
Still doesn't really know to the fullest extent.
Right. Justin's kind of an anomaly in a sense, although we did find out about the gene part. So I'll go into that a little bit later. But we did end up, we sought out doctors at Boston Children's Hospital. We were going back and forth there every 3 months, having EEGs. By now, he's having regular seizures, at times up to 30 a day. So we're kind of just learning this journey and how to parent a special needs child. And our biggest fear as parents is in the future, what does this look like for Justin? Do I have a baby that is going to grow and be I'm going to say typical developing child, or is he not? My question is he ever going to walk? Is he ever going to talk? And nobody could give us any answers. So I will say, honestly, I always say for me, it was grieving the loss of a normal child. And it probably took me about 2 years to get through that process, until he was about 2 years old. Loved Justin, loved being his mom, but it's a grief. You're grieving. I'm grieving the loss of having a normal child, because as he got a little bit older, we realized he wasn't sitting up, he wasn't walking, he wasn't talking, and those were not milestones he was meeting. Nor did the doctors at that point think they were milestones he was probably going to meet.
And I think it makes it even more hard because you had no indication prior to that day, like suspicions maybe 2 to 4 months in that maybe there was a little bit of a developmental delay, but you had no indication during pregnancy, during any scans, during birth and labor, like that anything was wrong. Right. He was completely healthy. You had no way to prepare for that grievance. A lot of times parents are nowadays, I think, able to find out about a lot of these, abnormal genes or cells or disabilities that people are going to be born with before the birth, and that kind of helps them prepare for how to care for the child. But you didn't have that opportunity.
Absolutely. And the one test I can remember we did have at 3 months, they measure like the fluid in the neck, which kind of gives an indication of some things, and his came back totally normal. And I had no reason to think that we were going to have a child that wasn't healthy, and I don't think anybody does. And I also want to preface this with Justin is significantly disabled, total care, and will be for the rest of his life. However, I don't want to take away from anybody else that has special needs members of their family, because there's all different types of special needs, and it's all just as difficult. It's just a different journey. And I'm big on that. This is my journey. Other people have their own journey. So
Absolutely.
that's just a really important point for me to make. So as you know, as Justin's growing, seeing doctors often, we ended up finding a team at CCMC, actually, which for those of you that don't know, that's Connecticut Children's Hospital. That's our local hospital. That was absolutely amazing. So we stopped going to Boston, and we've been with this team now since he's going to be 16. So for 14 years, he's got every ologist under the sun. We kind of joke around because he's got every ologist that exists. So he used to be on about 6 seizure medications, 3 times a day. So we did that for a while. He didn't eat well. He didn't really have that swallow reflex. So at one point we decided to try tube feeding him. And let me tell you, the 2 things that I think were the hardest for me was, one, when he was about 3 years old and birth to 3, brought over his first stroller wheelchair. And I can remember walking in the living room and seeing it. And it was just the worst. It was the worst feeling, seeing that. I can't even explain it. It just made it real. Like, oh my gosh, I have a wheelchair sitting in my living room for my son. And then when my husband and I made the decision for him to get the tube in his stomach, that also made it real. Like, this is a reality for us. Like, our son can't eat the typical way that people eat. Best decision we ever made. He still has the tube feed. He's on what's called the ketogenic diet. It's a high fat, low carb diet that helps control seizures. He went down from 6 meds 3 times a day to 1 med twice a day. It's been absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. But with that came more health diagnoses. So with the ketogenic diet, they do routine blood work. And the numbers were through the roof for these iron levels. So they're doing more tests, and they find out he's got hemochromatosis, which is an iron overload. And it turns out Dave and I are both carriers. This has nothing to do with his seizure disorder, his developmental delays. It was a completely different thing. But with this iron overload and the numbers he had, he ended up getting liver disease because he had so much iron in his liver that he damaged his liver. So he now has cirrhosis of his liver. They said that the numbers, or his liver, looked like that of like an 80-year-old alcoholic. And this is a kid at this point who's like 6 years old. So that brought on a whole new set of ologists and tests. And he's got, we see the liver doctor routinely for that. So just, there's a lot going on with Justin, a lot of different things. But I will say right now, with him being 15, he's in a wheelchair. He's nonverbal. He wears diapers. He's 90 pounds of dead weight. He's hard to lift. He's hard to carry. We have a room full of handicapped equipment for him. But this is the happiest, smilest boy you will ever see. And if you ever need somebody to bring a smile to your face on your lowest, darkest days, Justin can do it. And I still go through my periods of time where I feel like I'm over that grief of losing the grief of a normal developing child. Let me tell you, that road's not over. I have my ups and downs, and especially having other kids now, and Justin being in high school, he's a 10th grader. And, we go to sporting events or things, and I look at other kids, and sometimes it might be that self-pity. I'll admit that, where it's like, oh, why can't he just be running around with those other kids? Like, why does this have to happen to us? But I believe that things happen for a reason. Gonna preface that with, I'm going to tell you my biggest pet peeve, though, is when people say that God only gives these types of children to parents that can handle it. And I'm going to tell you why I don't like that. I think it takes a strong person to be able to care for a child like this. My husband and I have no choice, right? We wake up every morning, there's no option. But I did work in child protective services for 14 years, and there's a lot of children like this in foster care. So to me, if God only gives those kids to special parents, why are there's so many of those kids in foster care? So I just kind of wanted to put that out there for people to think about, because I think it's hard sometimes for people to know what to say to a parent raising a special needs child or the sibling of a special needs child. We just have no choice. We wake up and we do it.
Can I ask you,
Yeah.
Mom, a question? And I mean this in a genuine way, like as someone not in your shoes, what is something that someone could say to you that would really bring you comfort and solace? Because obviously nobody can take away that pain, but I feel like
Hmm.
sympathy is not good either. Like maybe empathy, like I empathize with you. I am not in that. Like what would be something that would really give you comfort? Because I think that's a struggle for a lot of people. They don't know how to approach these situations and provide
You know
comfort.
what it is? I think it's just, again, and I don't need people to be calling me and checking on me and things like that, but just sometimes the acknowledgement of, wow, this must really be hard.
Hmm.
Sometimes to me, I would love to hear that from people. Like,
Hmm. Like you don't want an I'm
I don't
sorry.
need an I'm
You want
sorry,
I see what you're doing and you're doing your
but
best.
like, you know what? Wow, that's really hard. When we have people over and he's got bowel movements and my whole house smells terrible and Dave has to go change him and then tube feed him, and it's like I would just sometimes like, wow, that's really tough. And
Hmm.
we have a lot of those special people in our life. I mean, I'll just say we recently went to the ice castles with some really good friends of ours, and they were awesome because we did bring Justin, but they said, you know what? You and Dave deserve to be able to do this too. So you guys go do it and let us stay back with Justin so that you have the opportunity to experience this too. Not everybody is like that. And it's not their job to be like that, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
But those things
Hmm.
to me are like, wow, they really get like this must be a difficult journey at times
Yeah.
for you.
Like I can't take the pressure off of you, but let me do what I can do to show you that I respect you as a parent and that I see that you're doing your best.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
I think that's a really good answer.
yeah, and we have several friends. I mean, our good friends with the pool, and they just built an out like an outdoor house bar changing station thing, and they call it like Justin's place. Because he comes to the pool, and this is so that he's got an outdoor place where Dave can change him. Like those things are like, oh my gosh.
So
So
meaningful.
meaningful. And I just want to bring to light too that at 15, it's hard. I don't know what the future holds for Justin. Um, I did say I was going to mention a gene piece. So we did find out recently that he's got something called the PIGA gene, PIGA. It's a rare gene. They're just learning about it. I am a carrier of it, and I did pass it down to Justin, not knowing I'm a carrier of it. It affects boys. So my daughters could be affected by having the gene, which could impact their having children. They need to find out if they have it and kind of learn more about what their risks are and things like that. Um, but only boys are symptomatic of it if you have a boy. So I had a 50% chance of having a son like Justin. I'm going to tell you, I am so thankful that I didn't know at the time that that was the case, because I never would have had my coolest 13-year-old son. And I thank God every day for
Or probably
for
cheating.
Jake and Carly. I probably wouldn't have. So I thank God that I have two additional healthy children and that I didn't know. But with that being said, it is a diagnosis where the future is uncertain. Um, he's tough to care for. I give my husband so much credit because he does a lot of caretaking. And I want to give a shout out to this boy. Things happen for a reason. Has brought the most amazing, amazing people into our lives. We have the best friends because of situations around Justin. We had to move to a certain house that met certain criteria, which brought us the most amazing neighbors. He's had paraprofessionals who have become like family and just absolutely love this kid. Um,
And I must tell you that one of them works in my office with me. And as soon as she heard that I knew you guys, and even though you had moved out of that other school that the kids went to together, she still has pictures on her phone. She misses him so much. She pops up with the memories and she's like, oh, I hope
It's
he's doing so
it's
well.
it's incredible.
She misses him. I'm like, really?
We go to football games for my son, and adults and kids likewise come up to him and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Justin!" I'm like, "Hey, who are you?" Like, why are you touching my kid? But he has been so impactful on people. And I'm gonna share one more story, and then I'm gonna pass it down. But I want to talk about, you watch the news and there's a lot of negativity in the world, and I want to talk about what good there still is in this world and how I continue to try to pay it forward. So when Justin was, oh God, Carly was a baby. I don't know. I can't do math right now. It was 2013. So Justin was maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7.
I think he was 7 because I was
Okay.
13.
And everybody knows I am an open book about my story. I'm just an open book. And there was a national contest for to win a handicap van. So I put in my little blurb and my little story, and I sent it on Facebook to have people vote every day, vote for Justin, vote for Justin. I put it out there to like the JI because you know what? I needed a handicap van. He's got to the point where I couldn't bring him anywhere. I couldn't lift him. I couldn't bring him anywhere. And the Journal Inquirer ended up coming out to our house and doing a story. We were on like the cover of the JI. They did some pictures, and I'm sitting at work one day and I get a phone call from an attorney in Rhode Island who said, I have some clients who want to remain completely anonymous, and that's the one condition. They want to buy you a brand new, fully loaded, handicapped van. But again, the only thing is they never want you to find out who they are. And this, oh my God, like, what do you do with that information? That is the most incredible gift thing anybody could ever offer us. And nobody knows how much easier that made my life. But some people were like, you know what, Beck, this could be a scam. Like, be careful. And I get that. But you know what? It wasn't. We went to Advance Wheels in Granby. Shout out to them. They're amazing. There was a big red bow on this van. They had a whole spread of food. We bought family.
Still have the van.
We still have the van. We had a whole spread of food and everything, and it was like this big celebration. And we drove out in our handicap van with Justin. But that what also came from that is a few other people that reached out to us with some used vans they wanted to donate. And my husband was a realtor at the time, who had just sold a house to a woman with a teenage daughter who was like Justin, and she had no transportation. So from that, we were able to take somebody else that reached out to us with the used van. She got a van for free. So it really turned into this amazing thing. And, I certainly don't have the funds to go buy somebody a van, but I am that person that at Dunkin' Donuts, I'll pay for the coffee behind me, or I'll just try to do something to pay it forward the best way I know how, because what somebody did for us, they'll never know how life-changing that was.
Every Maine vacation, every Christmas to see Mimi and Papa in New Hampshire,
Oh, yeah.
all of those were possible because of
Absolutely.
the van.
And one more point, Kay, is I think when you talk about it a little bit, you're going to have a different perspective than I think my other 2 kids will have whether they have it now or as they get older, because for Kaylin, she was an only child and she was there as I had this baby who wasn't developing normally. For my other 2 children, he's always just been a fixture in the house, right? Whether he's laying on the mat, he's in his chair, the kids jump over him to get to where they need to go. Like, that's just how they were raised. He's just always, I know you laugh, but it's true. If he's laying on his mat, they'll be running through, just kind of leap over him. And but the other 2, that's just how life has been for them. So for Kaylin, it was a big change in her existence and the attention that she probably got or didn't get at times because so much focus needed to be put on Justin. There were so many nights that we rushed him to the hospital and I was calling family members to come stay with her. So right now he's got the liver disease. His seizures are pretty controlled. He's in school. He's got a 1-to-1. This kid's laugh is contagious. He's ticklish. He smiles. He makes eye contact. Oh, he is so handsome. My husband used to do his hair when he was younger, and we used to call it the Ryan Seacrest because he would gel up the front of it. Yeah, yeah. But it's a journey and it's not over and it's not easy and I don't see it getting easier. I think it's a lot about just accepting that this is what's handed to me. And how Dave and I navigate it from here on out, it's an ongoing journey, and I don't know what the future holds. But I am thankful that I have the most amazing people in my life. I'm amazing that the school just adores him and cares for him. Um, and I'm thankful because I think it gives me a different perspective on life and to be grateful for things that I might not normally be grateful for. You don't, and the joy that he brings the other kids. I'm sure he gets something out of being in school. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what, but the other kids who not push, but race because they want to push him down the hall or they want to be the one to read him a book or they want to be the one to bring him to music class. To me, that makes it worth it, like for that exposure from other kids. So I don't know if I rambled on a bit, but that's pretty much.
No, it's good. It's your story, and I think with things that are this important, and this whole of our whole lives, like it's such a big part of our lives, it's important not to leave any details out. Like no detail is more or less important than another because all of them, kind of affected us. And Amanda, I'm not sure if you agree, but I think like one of the hardest parts of having a sibling with special needs, besides obviously the struggle that you see that person themselves going through, is seeing your parents in pain and not knowing how to help them or your sibling. Because I'm a child. I just see pain, but I can't understand what's going on, even if it was explained to me. And I've always been one who, like, I can't see my mom cry. Like, I could be the one that made my mom cry, and then because she's crying, I'll be like, no, sorry, don't cry. So I definitely think that that's like a really big part of the perspective as a sibling is not only seeing the sibling struggle, but watching your parents struggle
And I
too.
can't always turn that off. I'm going to be honest. I have my days where I just can't turn it off, and it's like that. Why me? And that's that self pity where I'm like, you know what, Becky, snap out of it. And I hope there's other people listening that just know like you're not alone. If there's other parents out there that are dealing with this. There's other siblings. There's other family members, grandparents. I'm so thankful that I am blessed that I have the family that I have and the support that I have because I don't know how I would do it without them. Honestly.
And I agree with so much of what you have said. Now, my brother's story is a little bit different because he is what they consider high
Hmm.
functioning. He has cerebral palsy and he has
Hmm.
epilepsy. So the cerebral palsy left him with muscles on the left side of his body that are much tighter, that he can't really use as regularly and as normally as the right side of his body. So he has somewhat of a limp when he walks. He almost like drags his left foot a little bit, and his left shoulder kind of stays up all the time. So with that, like physical, noticeably, handicap portion of him, people used to make fun of him and people used to always point out and ask what was wrong with him. He had a little bit of a speech impediment. So people would always question why he spoke the way he did. But I think the biggest impact was his seizures because of the epilepsy, which you can't visually see anything wrong with anyone when they
Right.
have epilepsy.
Absolutely.
There are so many people that have it that you have no idea just in talking with them day to day. I mean, I've known
Mhm.
people for years when they find out my brother has epilepsy, then they tell me they do
Yeah.
too. I had no idea because
Absolutely.
that's not something that you can tell unless they're having a
And
seizure
I think
normally.
Amanda, with your and I experiences, because both of our siblings do have other noticeably physical disabilities, we we don't remember that people with epilepsy, you can't visually see it because
Right,
our siblings, you can visually see it. Even if it's not the epilepsy, we
right,
associate that as a major part of their illness, and they do have a visible
Right. But the
disability.
three of us
right.
could have it and nobody would know because like you said, Amanda, it's epilepsy is not a
Mhm.
visual thing unless you're watching somebody have a seizure.
Right.
You don't know. So
Right. And I think those seizures have the most impact on my memory of growing up with him because from a very young age, they were trying all the different medications, the different doses, then they'd go back for blood work. Okay, this worked, this didn't work, we need more or
Mhm.
less of it. So there was a lot of doctor's appointments, kind of trial and error. He actually had reactions to some of them too, where he was breaking out in hives and having different issues with things. So it took a few years for my parents to really find what worked for him. But thankfully now he's on
Mhm.
Tegretol. And the Tegretol, it's great. He takes it 3 times a day. He has to set an alarm. If he misses even one dose, he has a seizure. Um, it took him many years to get a driver's permit, but he now has his license.
Oh, that's
They,
amazing.
isn't it? Yeah. So they first restricted him. He wasn't allowed to drive on highways. He wasn't allowed to drive past dark. But the longer he went, the better he got. The longer he went between seizures, he went in the state. They have special testing and stuff. He has one of those, what they call suicide knobs on
Okay.
there because he can't use the left hand as much. They modified his blinkers and stuff so
Wow.
that he had stuff that helps him in his vehicle and stuff.
That's amazing.
So even that was like a huge thing for us to know that he can drive himself back and forth to work. Granted, he normally works at
Mhm.
like grocery stores or restaurants, like busboy kind of thing, but he
That's
works. He has
awesome.
a job. He's dated. He's actually been married and divorced.
Really?
So yes,
Look at
that
him living life.
yeah, he is. And so, my parents always throughout high school, he's only 16 months
Okay.
older than me. So, growing up, everybody actually thought I was older than him just because of his
Mhm.
disabilities. He was only 1 grade ahead of me in high school. But everyone who knew us always just assumed that I was older just because I was more
Yeah.
capable
Mhm.
in a lot of ways than he was. So I know watching him struggle with that really affected me too, because he wanted to be my big brother.
Yeah.
He wanted to be the one that stood up for me, not me
Yeah.
standing up for him. So that was a tough balance for me to be like, I want to stick up for him, but I need to
Right.
make it look like he's protecting me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I didn't want him to feel like I was trying to be his big sister or make it out to be like I was responsible for him. I wanted him to feel like he was my big brother. So I think that was really hard. But one thing that always bothered me was when people would say something about him or mimic him having a seizure. And I would then say, would you ever come to school again? If you just had a seizure, dropping your lunchroom tray all over the place, you're now bit your tongue, you're bleeding, you're laying on the floor in front of everyone. Would you come
Right.
back to school?
No.
Oh, I
Mm-mm.
wouldn't want to. And they would turn to me and say, well, if I knew it was your brother, I wouldn't have said that. What does it matter that it's
Right.
my brother? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. He's a person struggling and you're laughing and making
Right.
fun of him. So I had a hard time keeping my hands to
Mhm.
myself, I'll say. I got physical sometimes with
Protective.
people. Most of them were
Protective.
boys. And it was like, and my parents at the same time as you don't fight, you don't use your hands, use your words. It just came out sometimes, like just the frustration and the anger. Like, why are you picking on someone that this is his life? He's not
Mhm.
making a
Kids
joke.
are
He's
so
not like these kids
mean.
now standing up on TikTok trying to get a reaction out of people. This is his life. This is what this boy is going through, and you're making fun of him. And I just wanted to voice that to everyone in high school that yes, he was my brother, but he was a person. And so we started unified sports. He had an amazing teacher in South Windsor High School that we will never forget that really put these things together and started a unified sports team. And I've heard that they still have it, which we're
Yeah.
thrilled about. Um, so again, that was another positive thing that came out of it. I was never like a cheerleader or anything, but I would go to my brother's games in these unified sports games and I would cheer on the sidelines. And some of my friends that were actual cheerleaders decided to come and they started cheering on the sidelines and
Oh.
stuff. So that was another thing that meant a lot. Like these people care enough about me and my family to come and support these people.
Mhm.
So, again, kind of tying back to just
Yeah.
amazing people that you find through things. yes, there were those haters and those people that just couldn't overlook his physical disabilities to form friendships with him. But then there was those people that you would look at him and them interacting, and you could see that they didn't look at him as disabled.
There's another
He was
person.
just another friend to them. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So he's always been my biggest hero too. He made Eagle Scouts. He's a South Windsor Fire Police
Wow.
volunteer for the town.
It's
So
so
with that, he
amazing.
has his struggles. And
Yeah, and
I
it's
mean,
just so amazing that he wanted to do those things for himself too. Like he was not like poor me, pity party. I'm
that's
struggling. Like he said, no, I'm gonna play sports. I'm gonna be an Eagle Scout, and I'm gonna get married and divorced. Like I'm doing all of
all,
it.
yes, all while still living with my parents. He never moved out. He never had a place of his own. After my dad passed away, my mom got a condo with 2 bedrooms. He's living there with her now. The property that I just bought over in Ellington has multiple houses on it, and we're slowly renovating so that my mom and my brother can come live here with us because I know my
Yeah,
mom's 70. So it's like, although I hope and pray she's going to be
of
around for
course.
20, 30 more years and can help take care of my brother, I know that even as a functioning adult, he doesn't make enough money or have enough, underneath his belt to purchase a home or to probably even rent on his own. Um, because my parents always took care of him, he never qualified for any of like the state
Mhm.
assistance or disability or anything like that. So, I kind of feel that not that he's going to be my responsibility, but I want to make sure
Take care of
that
him.
I can
Yeah.
take care of
You-
him.
Hmm.
And for starters, having a place for him to live, but not with us. I wanted something where he could have his own space and be his own person and not feel like a burden to us.
Hmm.
And some people think I'm crazy. Like, wait, you're renovating an entire house for your brother to live in, like for free? And I'm like, well, I'm sure he's going to help in some way and he'll
Yeah,
give some money or pay the electric bill or whatever he can do. But
of
yes, he's
course.
my brother. Yes.
And as like my mom always says, like families first. Like people can question all they want, but at the end of the day, like the only justification that you need is like that's your brother and
Right.
that's what you're going to do. So I commend you for
And I
that.
also want
That's
to
really
Thank
I
you.
amazing.
also want to say,
Thank you.
in talking about, there's different levels of special needs, and like I said, everybody's journey, it's their journey and it's a little different. And as much as Justin comes to about as much full care as somebody can possibly be, because he is, I thank God every day that I don't have to explain to him what is wrong with him, why he is the way he is. He doesn't know. He is in Justin's world, living Justin's life. So, and I don't know, Amanda, if you can even speak to this, but your brother must have obviously enough awareness to know that he's not typical, that he has a disability. And that's got to be such a struggle. And that's one thing, honestly, I'm thankful that Justin doesn't have. As hard as he is, I don't have to explain it to him. He doesn't have to feel that struggle. And it's got to be so hard for somebody with a disability who's being made fun of, who's trying to protect his sister, who's trying to be independent and get married and work and drive and just be independent, to know that there is that disability that people see that kind of holds them back from some degree in accomplishing some of the goals that they want. So is your brother, is that something he's ever talked to you about, or expressed how that makes him feel?
Yes. Yes. And sometimes it's
Yeah.
he gets very angry and frustrated. Why me? Kind of
Yeah.
almost like you said about yourself, like the why
Yeah.
did I have to have a son with a disability? Kind of like I think a lot of times when he and I talk about it, he outright says that he's jealous of me, that that I have a husband and the 3 kids and everything is healthy and normal and I
Yeah.
can get a job and I can travel with ease, carrying, things
Yeah.
easily with 2 hands. Like he's extremely strong in his one side and he does, a lot of stuff, like I said, but he does know that he has his limits. And there are a lot of times where he's kind of down on himself, almost depressed over it. But thankfully, he just has such a, I don't want to say naive soul, but it kind of is like a naive soul where it's like it doesn't last long. It's like he sees the best in everybody. He believes that everything is going to be okay and just work out and just be the way it's supposed to. So even when he gets in those moods, it doesn't last very long. He's very much a go-getter and a like, nah, I'm not going to let this hold me down. I'm going to show these people, like even with the Boy Scouts, some of them took one of his pocket knives and threw it in a dumpster and blah, blah, blah. Half of those boys didn't make it through Eagle Scouts. He went on to say, forget all that. I'm going to do this and show them that I'm better than them, which essentially in many ways
Yeah.
he is, just for being a bigger guy. But
Mm-hmm.
he definitely does get frustrated sometimes and does feel that pity for himself, like why me kind of
It's got to be
attitude.
so hard.
Yeah.
And
That's got to be hard. But you know what? That's a testament.
yeah,
I feel
That's a
like
testament to your family. I think, you know, of the support that you gave him and of letting him have that independence and doing those sports and everything. So, I mean, I think that's a testament to, you know, I don't know anybody else. I know you and your husband and, you know, your children, but a testament to people in your family that helped raise him, for him to be able to look past that and know, you know what, this is what I want, and I'm going to go after it, and I'm going to do it.
and I think it's great for my kids to see that too, because my oldest, she'll be 13 in August, and he was having some issues with regulation of his medication when she was younger. And he actually had a seizure in front of her while my parents were babysitting her one time. And she was right by his side. Even when the paramedics came, she was there. She was holding on to him. She was all about it. Lucas was very young. He was like under a year. So he slightly remembers just from us talking about it and stuff. But Raven was right there. And, you know, I think for children to see a family member that has disabilities, that has something like seizures that they have to go through, I think it really puts them in a good position to be a
Agreed.
kinder human. And I
mm-hmm.
really believe that. I really do. I mean, just the way they interact with even minorities, even with, I mean, new students, with any kind of different person in their class or in their on their team, they almost get
There's a
like,
sense of acceptance.
yes, and there's no doubt in their mind that just because this person is a little different or whatever, that they're not an everyday kid just like them. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's so wonderful to see that. And they can also say, well, yeah, my uncle does that too, or my uncle does it. And then knowing,
Yeah,
yes, he's a fire police officer, like, yes, it's a volunteer position, but he's on that
absolutely.
force in South Windsor, like knowing that it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even
Yeah,
know that I'd be able to do that. And here he is rocking it with his disability. So I think for my kids to see him doing so much with his disabilities, that them as normal children should be able to go on and do a
absolutely.
lot of stuff themselves
Absolutely.
too.
Yeah, I really relate to that as well because I feel like I feel like I experienced that growing up with a special needs brother. I was always the kid to make sure no kid was sitting alone at lunch. I was always the kid who was helping tutor the special needs kids. Even now I volunteer twice a month at a special needs school up in Harlem where I teach kids that only speak Spanish but they also have learning disabilities how to speak English so they can better work in their school environment. And those things are things that I don't do because I feel bad for these people. I do them
Mhm.
because I see the humanity in them. And I see the opportunity to provide someone with assistance and like it's no less than that. But I definitely agree that Justin and having him as a brother was a big, big part of shaping that part of my morals. And my character traits. I knew how to tube feed Justin by the time I was 10 years old. I knew how to give him emergency diastat. I knew things kids my age had never even heard of before. I used to have to explain to friends before they came over for the first time, like, hey, there's gonna be like a hydration tube connected to my brother's bed. I don't want you to be scared. Like, he's okay, but I don't want you to be scared because it
For the
looks like a
noises that
hospital
he
bed.
makes. He's going to be making weird noises and weird,
Yeah.
body movements. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. All while being scared and confused and not even understanding why he needed all this extra help in the first place. Because I can understand the concept at 10 years old that he's special needs, but epilepsy and cerebral palsy and cortically blind and hemochromatosis, all those are just words to me. That doesn't, to me, he's just sick. Something's wrong. And back to what I mentioned earlier, like seeing my parents struggle was and really is still one of the hardest parts, I feel like, for me, because I watch you and dad sacrifice so much just to be able to include Justin's needs into your life. And most of the time it's a matter of necessity, but I see how hard you try, even when there's opportunities to exclude him, not in a hurtful way, but it would be easier to not do this with him. And you still say, nope, he's family. We're a family. He is a part of the family. He is going to be with us. And I think that that's super admirable. But it also hurts me because I see you both, whether it be emotionally or financially or physically, carrying him to bed, struggling. And even now, with more of an understanding, there's nothing that I can do. And even if I were to, you would kill me if I moved home to help you with Justin. And I would do it in a heartbeat. If you called me and you said, Kaylin, I just need the help at home. Can you come home? I'd be home tomorrow, like no questions asked. But it's really hard because outside of that, there's nothing that I can do besides love you and admire what you're doing to help you through that. And it's not something that you can really overcome until you don't have to do it anymore, which we hope is not the case for a very long time. So it's a very double
And
ended
I mean, I
sword.
really
It's
appreciate
really
that. But the
difficult.
biggest gift that my other 3 children can give to me is to go off into this world and be the best people you can be. Find your way, find your path,
Yeah.
and let Justin be in that background of guiding your path, of helping to build your morals, your values, how you treat other people, and respect other people, and to help that guide you through life. And that's, I think, is the biggest gift that I can get from you guys. And you're right, it's hard. I mean, we do a Maine vacation every year, and I always said Justin's coming with us no matter what. But let me tell you, that's getting pretty freaking hard every year. But we do it. But get in that wheelchair through the sand, and he's diaper changed and tube fed, and Dave.
Until you have a wheelchair in your household, you don't realize how
Yep.
anti-wheelchair this freaking world is. This entire planet, how difficult it is to find a handicapped accessible pier onto the beach, a handicap accessible house that we can sleep in. Like, this world in 2023 is still not accommodating to disabilities, regardless if it's a wheelchair, if it is, a vision disability, a height disability, or whatever the case may be. The world is not accustomed to it. And it's something that really slaps you in the face as a family member when you do have that. The amount of people that ignore handicap parking and don't think that those lines are there because somebody has to
I'm
get
that
a
mom
ramp
that
out of
takes a
their car
picture and I post
for
it on
somebody to
Facebook,
be
and
able
I'm like,
to.
ah, that's me.
But it's true. Unless you're personally dealing with it, this isn't something that you think about, and it's not a matter of intentional hurt, but just a matter of
Yep.
ignorance to, this isn't my problem, so I don't realize the problem. And that's a big reason why I wanted to do this episode today and focus it more around the family members of these individuals versus the individuals themselves. Not that their stories are not more so important, but just because I think that more needs to be contributed to the conversation about the everyday struggles in 2023, that people wake up and can't bring their son to the grocery store still, can't bring their son to the mall still, can't bring him to Target to try on clothes because you can't get him in the door. Like, that is mind-boggling
I mean, I
to
do
me.
want
Like,
to say
I
they've
just
come a
don't
long way with like
understand.
ADA accommodations, but there are certain places that we do bring him that there are not accommodations. I mean, the elementary school where he used to do summer school in our town here in Vernon didn't have a handicapped accessible way to get from one floor to the next or into the school, which blew my mind. When we went to the ice castles, I understand there's probably really no way to make that handicap accessible. But like, I had my 5 minutes of crying there. I'm not going to lie, because here I am with my family and I want nothing more than to walk with my family through these castles. There's no way to bring Justin through that. And I get why. It's freaking snow. I mean, but it's just not, you're right, Kaylin. There's still a lot of room to grow, a lot of work that needs to be done to make things more accessible to individuals.
And I understand, like, in the ice castle situation, not everything can be accessible to every type of disability, and I understand that. But there, like you said, there are so many opportunities to grow. And in addition to that, if you can't make something more handicapped accessible, you can just be a kinder overall person to those people
Yeah,
struggling. And I think that's a big takeaway, is just understand that, like, wanting to go to the second floor of your school or a store, I'm not saying you have to wake up and say, oh, thank you, I can get up the stairs today. Like, I don't expect you to do that. I don't do that. And this is my brother. I don't wake up, and I am grateful for that. But I don't expect people to have that mindset. Just be more aware of, when you do encounter someone who is struggling with a disability, ways that you can accommodate them while still seeing their humanity and acknowledging their
and their
situation and
place in the
acknowledging that this is
world.
how their
You know,
existence
you're
is.
absolutely right, and I just want to let people know too.
Mhm.
And not everybody might be like this, but I'm open to questions. Don't just stare or snicker. Ask me. I'm more than willing. And I love when kids come up to me and they ask honestly, and I explain to them that his brain doesn't quite work like your brain does, and well, why does he have a tube? Well, he's not able to eat like you do, so this is how he has to eat. This is what we do. And I have no problem explaining to people. It's the Snickers or the looks that you get and things like that.
The grown adults weeping
That's
because the
another
bus
one.
is taking too
Yes.
long to get his
And
wheelchair off.
that happens to
Private
us all the
sh-
time when the handicap bus pulls up. Not all the time, sometimes. And I want to be like, do you really think I want to be here pushing a wheelchair out to the van? Like, is this my dream? But come on, be a little patient. Be a little patient.
like, yeah,
Be a little
just patient.
patient and a little
Yeah,
understanding. Absolutely.
definitely.
Um,
But I feel like this episode was really special to me filming, because Justin's journey isn't something that I really talk about that often. Not for any specific reason, other than I feel like, along with you, I really already processed a lot of the emotions that come from being the big sister to a special needs sibling. But it feels really good to honor my brother in a way by sharing his story, by adding to the conversation on disabilities. Last week we talked about mental health, and this
mhm.
is another episode on a different type of health issue in our society, but a just as important one nonetheless. So I just want to thank you ladies for being, like, so open
Yeah,
to
Amanda, honestly, thank you for
sharing.
joining our episode. Thank you for sharing your story and your brother's story. And I am absolutely amazed by his accomplishments and what seems like his drive to just make his mark on this world. Um, yeah,
I want him on next.
So that was a big part of me wanting, knowing your son Justin, and clearly his disabilities are more debilitating than my brother's. But
no
that
less of a
being
struggle.
said, it was still a struggle growing up. My parents
Absolutely.
always had to put him first. He had braces when he was walking on his legs. I
Yeah,
mean, lots of physical therapy, lots of different doctor's appointments. And a lot of times I
sure.
felt ignored and would act out in my own ways, like sticking keys in like a socket one time, I think,
Doing
at a doctor.
spit takes on your bedroom wall that your mom just
Yeah,
Yeah,
painted.
right. Yes, all those things, because
yeah.
wanting the attention from your parents, but knowing that your brother needs it. It was kind of a weird balance growing up, but
We have a friend who has a son with a disability as well, and she raises him the same way. Anything he says he can't do, she says, "Well, that sucks. You better learn how to do it," in the most loving, encouraging way possible, not that blunt, but like, the world is not going to do this for you, so let's show you how you can do it for yourself. And I think that that is such a strong and amazing way to handle those situations, because it's like, you have to acknowledge it's going to be harder, and there are some things maybe you can't do that you wish that you could. But there's a hell of a lot of things that you can do, and you're not going to sit here and tell me you can't because Tommy down the street said you can't.
Right. There's only so much time for the pity party. You can have your pity party, you can get it out, you can
Put on those
express
big
it,
girl
you
panties
work
and
through
just,
it,
you
and then
know,
you move on.
plug
Yep.
along. Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, the struggle is real. It's there. And as siblings, I give you guys credit, because I know as a parent, there are times where time is taken away from my other kids, or no, we can't do this because Justin, or today's a day where Justin's having a lot of seizures. I can't leave the house. So for you guys as siblings, I just give you credit on your strength, your ability to really push through and shine in your own ways, and love your siblings, and do what you can to be the best siblings to them you can be, because I know it's not easy for the siblings either. So I'm glad that you guys were able to kind of share your perspectives on that.
I will give you your props though, Mom. As much as Justin needed extra attention, and this is not what the episode's about, so we're not going to go into it, but that was around the same time that I was doing everything in LA, like the earlier stages of that. And you never took away from me my dreams and the things that I wanted to do. And Mimi and Papa got in on it to make sure that who needed to be home with Justin taking care of him was. But I still had this amazing opportunity that you were not letting me pass up because of that. So I just want you to know, at least from my perspective, that although there were times where Justin was getting a lot, I always felt like I was a priority, and I was in the forefront of both you and Ed too. She's trying not to cry. That's why she's winking.
Yes. I know that look.
That's why I've got the hat on today, and just in
But
case.
Yeah. Me too.
no, but this was
I think
a
so.
really, really great episode to film with y'all. That pretty much, I think, brings us to the end of episode 3.
Yes.
Amanda, we definitely want to have you on again if you're open to it. Anyone else listening who has a story they would like to share, or is interested in being a part of Affirming Always, those details will be listed in the description of this episode. And just remember, whatever you're going through, this too shall pass.